Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we're going to be looking at using the multi-view interface within SRAM 2023 to help facilitate drawing, creating, editing, and also post-processing our models in a more efficient fashion. I have a fairly complex timber frame structure that I'm working with for this example, and what I want to start off by doing is actually showing you how to access this multi-view interface. It can be a really useful tool when we're working with a structure that might have planes of geometry that are different from one another. And just to demonstrate this, what I'll do, I'm in the geometry window right now, and I'm going to go to the View menu and click on New View. And this will create a new viewport of my structure. I'll just realign this first one here. And what I want to do is create two separate distinct views that allow me to perhaps draw something a little bit more efficient. Now I'm going to ignore the presence of all these folders that have already been created for us. And I'm actually going to create a new 2D coordinate system using the User Coordinate System tool. And I'm going to left click in the geometry view on the right hand side and use the User Coordinate System tool. And using the 3-point method, I'm just going to define a user coordinate system that is in line with this vertical face here on the far end of my structure. So you can see here the orientation of the XY axis of my UCS. And I'm going to turn on the View 2D display and just look at the top view so I can get a better view of what this looks like. So now, within this top view, or this, I would say, elevation view, I'm able to define different parameters within my structure with a simpler working surface. So I can, for example, define a member definition using the member definition tool. I can go in and draw in a new member between different elements of my structure, and it will be added into this 3D view as well. This also allows me to look at different components of our structure at the same time. So I can see, for example, the section properties on one view, and on the other view I can see perhaps a simplified version of what I wanted to display for that particular modeling application. So now in one view, on the left-hand side view, I'm looking at the geometry window's section properties view with that tool active. And on the right-hand side, I'm using the geometry window, but I'm also using a different tool. I'm using the member definition tool. So I can switch between different tools and viewports, and I can have more than two if I wanted to. Now there is another useful setting under the Settings Preferences dialog. If I go to the General tab, we have this option here when we're working within the multi-view interface, or MVI. For the active window, we can keep all the view settings consistent between each of the settings, each of the windows rather. So I can click on here to enable that, and you'll notice it changes right away what I've displayed on the left-hand side, because in the active window, this window right here, the right-hand side, I have the member definition tool defined. So I'm no longer seeing the section properties tool data on the left-hand side. And this might make it easier for us to swap in between different views of the model and not have to think about which tool we have active. So if I accidentally think I have the section properties tool active and then I switch windows and I left-click on an element to draw a new member, I'm not going to inadvertently change the section of my member. It comes down to user preference in terms of which one you like to use, so feel free to play with those options. This can also be handy if we run an analysis. So I'm just going to go ahead and run an analysis now. I'll run a linear static analysis. And now I'm in the graphical results window. And just like within the geometry window, I'm able to look at different results within the same display. So here, I can go in and look at, for example, my moment diagrams. And I can see the moment diagrams for my particular structure here. And I can go to the View menu and say, let's create a new view. And I can see a very similar looking view on the right-hand side. And you'll notice here, when I switch between these, I am going to look at, for example, shell contours. I can see the shell contours displayed and the moment contour or moment diagram display at the same time. And I can switch which display I'm looking at. So I may want to look at the Z displacement in my right-hand side view in my shell contours, And perhaps on the graphical results side over here, I might be interested in looking at a different loading condition or a different load combination even. And I can see those bits of data side by side, essentially. It might even be useful if we want to graphically compare this information for the same type of result. For example, I may want to look at self-weight versus a different load case. And we can see the load case labels at the top and everything related to that.